Crossfire. Today, we learn new details about the Navy Yard gunman's troubling past, and it raises a larger issue. How is it possible that our huge bureaucracies let him slip through the cracks? We're beginning to learn, for example, that he was apparently, a few months ago, had 3 different unknown people talking to him, had a microwave oven blocking him from being able to talk, told the police this. The police actually told the Navy that these things were happening because they knew he was going to go to a naval facility. That somehow didn't get in the system. We know he had at least 8 disciplinary problems in the Navy. The Navy decided it was too hard to give him a general discharge, so he got an honorable discharge just because the bureaucracy couldn't function. We now know that he shot up somebody's tires, which normally would be seen as a sign of a little bit of a hot temper. We also apparently had a run-in with his neighbors upstairs who were noisy, so he fired a pistol through the ceiling, which most people would regard as inappropriate behavior. All this stuff is coming out. The contractor who was not responsible, the government responsible, the contractor within 3 minutes could track all this stuff down, but somehow the people in charge of the government and the security clearance couldn't track it down. And I'll just give you one last example of government incompetence. We just learned this afternoon that the fax machine at the Pentagon that is supposed to be receiving Freedom of Information requests has been broken for 2 weeks, and they think they might be able to get it fixed in October or November. Now, a government which can't find a fax machine in 6 weeks, I would suggest, is a government incapable of being trusted with these kind of things. And Colin, the question I would ask you is, why would you trust the bureaucracy to solve your problems when it's clear the bureaucracy is failing?
The Brady background check bill that came in place that set up the background check system that we currently have has stopped already 2 million transactions from happening where a gun would have gone to the hands of a prohibited purchaser. 2 million over the course of that 18-year period is phenomenal. I mean, how many other incidents have been prevented because dangerous people left unarmed, right? We have a system that does work, but there are missing holes in it, missing mental health records, missing substance abuse records. I mean, those are the complex issues we have to deal with. But when we do that, when we deal with the missing records and get the system as robust as possible and as functionally as efficient as possible, if we don't actually require people to go through it to begin with, then what's the point? Why are we doing it?
Well, but here you have a guy who passed the system.
Right.
And passed the system to be cleared to be on a naval base, passed the system to buy a shotgun, got the kind of instant background check you want. And it just strikes me that people are going to say, are we really sure more red tape and more bureaucracy applied to honest people is going to really solve the problems we're facing?
A background check, Newt, takes a matter of minutes or hours. It's almost instant. That's the nature of the background check. It's an instant background check. And as Colin said, that hundreds of thousands of people, just in this year alone, have been prevented from buying guns because they've been deemed violent or have a felony record or have a record of mental illness. So if you know, we don't know how many murders we prevented there, but if it prevented one, why would we not do it? I don't understand, Larry, your opposition to background checks. If the entire purpose is to keep guns out of the hands of criminals and people who would do harm to themselves. We have to keep guns out of the people who want to harm others.
I don't understand your facile acceptance of the good nature of the government, and they're obviously willing to break the law and make a record of things they shouldn't be making. Now, if they'll nosy in on your call to your Aunt Sadie, and we know they've done that, then don't we think that it's reasonable to assume that they're breaking the law, prohibiting them from keeping the names and addresses of gun owners?
No, I don't. No. I don't.
Well,
not when lives are at stake. Lives are at stake here. We're preventing people from getting killed. And that'll be their justification
for breaking the law.
Do you have any evidence that they're breaking the law in the background check system? Because right now it's illegal. It's illegal to be keeping those gun records. The NRA keeps their gun records. You keep gun records. It's not illegal for us to do that, but it was illegal for the NSA to do what it did. And they did it with a straight face. The only solution you have here for preventing gun violence is to give more people guns.
Sure.
That breaks all logic.
It worked in Clackamas, Oregon, in that mall, and it works in many places where we don't hear about a mass murder because a good guy with a gun is there in time.
If the idea that if only more guns were in more places of our country, that we would all become a safer place. If that idea was fundamentally true, then the United States of America, the country with 300 million guns already in circulation, we would already be the safest place in the entire world.
Consider that we are outside of about 9 metropolitan areas that are really anti-gun. If you pull them out of our data, our crime data, we're a safer place than Europe. It's where your laws are in effect that people are dying. Thanks very much.
No, it's just not true. Look, and we're talking about laws. Let's change it to gun owner responsibility.
Oh,
what is the responsible? What is the responsible thing to do as a gun owner? It's to keep your gun locked and stored safely away from your children.
It's to have it
I think you're outside of the mainstream here.
My home.
But not access to your child. So your child finds it and then shoots another child. Or gets access and shoots kids at a school.
There are other ways of keeping guns that are not going to be found by kids.
Also, keeping your gun clean at a range, not pointing it at people.
By God's grace, I've got 4 kids and 21 grandchildren, and none of them have died by gunshot. One
there
died
have been too
in
many
a pool.
that already have. And finally, what's a responsible gun owner do? When they sell it to someone else, they don't know who it is. They make sure that they can legally own it. And the way you do that is with a 90-second background check.
I have to just pursue this for a second because I'm fascinated. Look, I agree with you. There are many, many responsible people.
Yes.
There are many, many honest people.
Yes.
The problem with the effort to control all this by law is that the people you're most trying to control are by definition criminals. I mean, so you have a criminal engaged in a criminal behavior. You have tragic situations, a suicide in Southern California recently, in which the young man got the gun that has no numbers on it, clearly bought it on the street, no background check, because he wasn't buying it from a responsible gun owner. So isn't part of the problem that you are trying to find a legal solution to a group of illegal people when what we have to have is a people-oriented solution, not a mechanical gun-oriented solution?
The way to control criminals is not to control the good guys.
Well, I'm surprised. I mean, as someone who set laws and policies, I mean, you don't set laws and policies based on what criminals do. I mean, that's the argument of, people still murder. Why do we have laws against murder then? I mean, that's not a call for anarchy. If you're saying that we should set policies based on what, bad people might do or not. Like I'm saying, we don't even know who people are when 40% of gun sales go unchecked every year. So let's just do a background check that takes 90 seconds to make sure the gun is not going to somebody with a record.
And if you have nothing to hide, why not?
Oh,
so do you believe that someone who has been convicted of domestic violence should be able to go to a gun store and buy a gun?
Why don't we just get rid of the Fourth Amendment? Police work would be so much more efficient.
Should be able to go to a gun store and buy a gun?
I don't think you're going to stop him by keeping him from going to a gun store.
But do you think that he should be able to walk into a gun store and buy a gun?
If he doesn't get it there, he's going to get it.
Do you think that he should buy? Do you think that we should allow them to buy guns?
I don't think you should be limiting me and letting the government keep a list of my names and addresses. That's what I'm telling you.
So any
felons, you don't mind the intrusion.
Terrorists,
you don't care about the Fourth Amendment,
domestic violence,
let alone the
can all go into a gun store and buy a gun.
Get it anyway. You're just going to keep people like me from getting it.
Okay, so that's like saying that because they're going to get it anyway, we should just wipe our hands clean and do nothing.
No.
So what if we did that on 9/11? On 9/11, clearly our security checks at the airport weren't working. We didn't do away with security checks. We strengthened them. Again, it defies logic.
And that has not exactly been the way you're going to run. If you're going to make me go through something like that to buy a gun or go to the supermarket because I might buy the ingredients for a bomb, business is not going to stand for that. American people are not quite that sheep-like that they're going to stand for that. And that's the only way in your world of sticking the government's nose into everything that could happen.
I don't think it's about the government. I think it's about finding a way to keep guns out of the hands of criminals and those that want to do harm.
Names and addresses.
I haven't heard one solution. I haven't heard one solution except from you, except to give more people guns.
Governments have only used lists of gun owners to confiscate guns, be it in New York or in other states in our country, let alone in other countries.
Look, I think this is a very serious issue, and I think one of the things we don't talk about much, we should, is the mental health aspect of this. I mean, it seems to me, when you look at, for example, yesterday's killer, there's so much, and you had the same thing in Virginia Tech, where apparently there was a court order that was restricting him, but the court order had been sealed because of Virginia laws, which I think have now been changed.
Yes.
But I do think there are grounds, and I don't know where Larry comes down. So I think there is serious grounds if you have somebody who clearly has a pattern of being dangerous.
Okay, now a pattern of being dangerous means that we ought to be able to take him to court, give him a lawyer, his experts, due process, convict him, and put him in jail.
Well, let me just say thanks to Colin Goddard and Larry Pratt. Next, we'll take a few minutes to remember the victims of yesterday's tragedy.